Hi, everybody. Happy draft night. As we all saw, we just minutes ago selected Jackson Holliday, shortstop from Stillwater High School in Oklahoma, as the number one overall pick in the 2022 draft. So obviously, it's a gigantic decision and moment for the Orioles franchise. The number one overall pick is always a big thing in baseball history. And this was something poured every resource of the organization into scouting and ultimately deciding today. And I am very proud of and happy with the today, and also the entire process and the work of all of our scouts. Our player development staff was heavily involved. Our entire analytics department, just every corner of baseball operations was involved in making the selection. We couldn't be happier with the player and the person that we're getting, and also the profile of the player. He's a five-tool shortstop, left-handed bat. We project him to remain as a shortstop defensively, but he does it all. He throws. He's a plus runner. He's going to hit and hit for power. He's got the best swing in the draft, or one of the best swings in the draft. And he's got everything in front of him, and a tremendous family and support system that will work in concert with our people to get the most out of Jackson in his career the next few years. So I think this is obviously, with the number overall pick, a very major addition to what is already the top farm system in baseball and what is now a young, talented major league team on the come. But I also think that he's going to be a big addition to the culture that we've built and our players have built in the Orioles minor and major league system together.
Thank you, Mike. With that, we will open it up to questions. First up is Rock Kubatko.
Mike, when did you actually decide on him, and what, as much as you like him, was it a difficult decision because of the talent and the guys that you were deliberating?
It was a very difficult decision in a good way. I would liken it to deciding what to order at a five-star restaurant. This was a very good class. We boiled it down to five players. We had advocates and rationale for taking any one of the five players, but ultimately you're only allowed to come home with one of them. And we picked our favorite one. Without getting too behind the curtains with how the business of the draft works, this is always a final decision that is very, very late. But this is exactly how we were hoping things would unfold. And I couldn't be happier with it. And we're looking forward to now. We have three more picks tonight, so we have a lot of good work ahead of us.
Dan Conley.
Mike, what was the tiebreaker, and how important was it that he's going to be a shortstop, you think, and many think, for the rest of his career?
Well, it's obviously huge that we project him to stay short. I mean, he does so much well defensively. He's got an above average arm. He's a plus runner as a base runner, but the speed also translates to his athletic movements on the defensive side of the ball. And he's got a very technically correct throwing stroke and a technically correct way of approaching ground balls. And he's an 18-year-old kid, so he's got refinement ahead of him. But there's a tremendous base of fundamentals to go along with elite physical tools, much of which came on this spring. He made a unusually big jump from the summer to the spring, and just lay down a dominant high school season, and looked like the best player in the draft all spring. And so that's why we took him. And I think anytime that you have an offensive shortstop like this, especially a left-handed hitter, in a draft class, you take it very, very seriously. And ultimately, we decided to pull the trigger.
Rich Dubroff, go ahead.
Mike, obviously he has great bloodlines with his father, but is there a comp for him? Was his father, even though his father was an outfielder, is he a player like his father?
I think that he shares some of the physicality and explosiveness and speed that Matt had. But other than that, they play different positions. Jackson's left-handed. Yeah, I think he's his own player in that regard. And, we see a lot of bloodlines around Major League Baseball nowadays, but there were a lot in this top of this draft too. I mean, we had another Hall of Fame level talent player's son in consideration. We had a 10-year NFL vet's son in consideration. We had a baseball family of coaches. I mean, I could go on. There was a lot of players with bloodlines in their favor, but I think with Jackson, that's always a feather in the cap for the player. But the family, the way that they've raised these kids, the work ethic in particular, the entire support system around him, I think is going to be in the plus column for his development. And also the family is his uncle is the coach at Oklahoma State. His grandfather is a legendary coach. So there was a lot there off the field to get us excited.
Steve Molesky.
Mike, was he your definite number one ranked player? And if yes, was there a separation? In other words, was it really, really close with the other finalists? Or did you have some separation?
We had
there?
arguments for any of these five guys, but this was a player that we were all happy with. He was a yes, so to speak, for anybody involved in this process. And ultimately he was our favorite choice. And this is the way we went tonight. And I think it's gonna bear out very well.
Nathan Ruiz, Baltimore Sun.
Hey, Mike, how did you guys kind of balance floor and ceiling in picking Jackson? And how do you view him in terms of being a guy who kind of quickly joined the wave you guys have coming that's in the upper minors right now?
Well, I think that he's got a tremendous balance of floor and ceiling, which is why he was the first overall pick. And that's why these guys go this high most of the time, because they bring a blend of those of risk and reward. I think the upside for him is enormous. I mean, it's a potential star playing shortstop, batting in the middle of the order, doing so for a very long time. In some regard, I don't know that the ceiling gets much higher than somebody with that profile, but also with the five tools that he brings to the table, with the defensive position that he plays, with the off-field work ethic that we know is there, and the presence of both a power and hit tool. I think even if his development doesn't go perfectly, there's a lot of different productive pathways this will go down.
Anna Kaiser, Yahoo Sports.
Hey, Mike, you referenced sort of the young, talented team you have at the majors at the top. Is there anything about the performance you've seen from Ben or even your sort of upper level prospects that affected the final decision in terms of what your window might be?
No, I mean, we're certainly proud of the direction the team's headed in and proud of the farm system that we put together. But that personnel, with the way that baseball works, with the way that the baseball draft works, was definitely not something that was ever factored into this selection with the number one overall pick. And I'm hopeful that Jackson's got a good chance to move efficiently through the minors and join this group that we see. I've seen high school picks that move just as fast, if not faster, than college players. It just depends. Everybody's different. But this was the prospect that we wanted to add to our pipeline. When you're a shortstop, it's hard to find yourself blocked. When I was in Houston, we took Alex Bregman the year that Carlos Correa debuted, and we never worried about it. And sure enough, found a way to get both of those great players into the lineup in one way, shape, or form. So I'm excited to see him start moving through the minor leagues, and we'll take it from there.
Stan Charles.
Mike, about a week ago, I asked you the question of whether you guys were building toward a consensus. Did you get to as close as you could get to a consensus on this pick within your draft room?
I think consensus is the right word for it. It was not unanimous. It never is. I've never been a part of a draft room when we got 50 people up there. You're just not going to get that. But this was a player that anyone involved deemed worthy of selecting, and like I said, was a quote unquote yes. So I think that's as close as you get to consensus in this business. And certainly you look at the public rankings that were available to this draft, and if he wasn't one, he wasn't far off. So I think we lined up with what sounds like the rest of the industry saw.
Kyle Glazer, Baseball America.
Hey, Mike, you scouted Jackson a couple times personally this year. At what point for you did he become a real candidate to go number one with the selection?
So as I mentioned, he was not viewed as a candidate, a top couple pick sort of guy in the fall or the summer last year, and was not somebody that we've focused on in our winter meetings for this pick, though we liked him and we're planning on following him for the draft. And then the physical gains that he made over the winter enabled his swing to just come together in a more postured, balanced way. His performance shot through the roof, and the speed and power ticked up a bit. And when the local scouts in the Midwest started going in early part of the spring to see him, it was like there was a fire alarm in the scouting industry. And we certainly poured in there very heavily from that point forward. And our area scout, Ken Guthrie, we have two scouts that live in Oklahoma, Ken Guthrie and Jim Richardson. They were on top of it, and we got our people in there. And I'd say by late March, he was firmly in the mix, and we started applying every evaluative resource that we have towards following him. And I managed to see him 3 games and a workout, spent a lot of time with the family personally, and saw everything I needed to see.
Thank you.
Zach Silver.
And like when we were talking earlier this year about Gunnar, you talked about how he was kind of the flagship for the player development system. Where do you feel like that is for you guys? How do you feel like it's kind of developed over the last couple of years, and kind of the health of it right now?
I'm extraordinarily proud of the coaches and the coaching analysts and the strength department and the medical department that we have working together on the player development side. I can't imagine that there's much better cohesion across the industry than what we have with our group. And I think that Jackson's going to fit right in with what we're doing. Certainly that does come into play when we're making a selection. We want to make sure it's a good fit on both ends, and we're going to be providing him with an environment to succeed.
Nathan Ruiz.
Mike, on somewhat of a separate topic, the major league team finished 500 today. Just on a day like this, you're adding more talent to the organization. How significant is that, and how pleased are you with the direction things are going just overall?
Yeah, I do think it's a pretty significant mile marker for us, honestly, to be making this pick and the next 3 picks that we're going to have tonight on a night when our group has finished with a 500 record. I think that's a step. And now we're adding what's going to be a big new wave to the bottom of what is an excellent farm system. And, I say it all the time, our division is ridiculous. We've got to tangle with these 4 extraordinarily well-run, well-resourced organizations. But I think that this Orioles organization is in the healthiest spot it's been in a very long time. And, it just got a lot healthier 20 minutes ago. So, I think this is a really nice night for us to have things going well at the major and minor league level and in the scouting department all at the same time on the same night.
Last question is from Stan Charles.
Mike, just so I understand, when will Jackson Holliday play baseball for the Orioles organization, given the late draft date?
Well, we have to sign him first, and the signing deadline is pretty soon. Honestly, it's like first couple of days of August now. So hopefully that all goes smoothly. I very much expect that it will. And once that is complete and he's onboarded, 99 times out of 100, a high school kid, regardless of where they're taken in the draft, goes to the spring training site and starts working out and joins the complex league team. So, we'll get to that point, but the next steps are finishing our draft. I'm sure he's got to decommit, and then hopefully we'll start making some
Thank you,
progress
Mike.
on a contract.
All right, that's all the questions we have. Thank you very much, Mike.
Thanks, guys.